This is the Art Beauty Podcast where we tell the real truth about the fake shit. And today, my fabulous co-hosts are my real girlfriends. We've got Sylvia, Becca, and Lindsay. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
You ladies look fabulous, by the way.
Never as fabulous as the fabulous Amber.
And you know, it's so funny. We were together, I guess this was like about a month or so ago. And I think that the four of us realized when we were together that all four of us have had breast augmentation for different reasons. And actually, I had like a little song for this. I was like, let's talk about breasts, baby. Let's talk about our boobies. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things. But I did want to talk about this because being the most recent one to have breast augmentation, I had a lift and a small implant put in. Sylvia, you had breast implants. Becca, you had a lift. And Lindsay, you also had breast implants put in. I just thought it would be nice to kind of talk about, what caused us to do this. What were the things that you wish you would have known beforehand? What were the things that maybe you thought were going to change that didn't, or things that you didn't think were going to change that did? And so, if anybody out there is thinking about this or is in similar situations to one of the four of us, maybe they could get some insight. So Sylvia, let's start with you. Can you tell us about what procedure you had done and why you had it done?
So back in 2014, I had a breast augmentation. It was kind of like a present for myself for my 31st birthday. I, had always wanted boobs. And it was something that every woman that I knew, every woman in my family always had large breasts. And I felt like it was kind of like I was owed. And at some point I decided I was going to do it, and I wanted to do it when I was 18, but my mom's like, why don't you just wait a little bit and just, kind of, maybe you'll grow into, you'll be happy with where you are. And by 30, I still felt the same. And 31, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And went ahead, took the plunge, got them done. I went to a really great doctor. And he was great because he, kind of guided me through based on discussions, like what size to get, what felt right, that kind of experience. So I would say I'm really happy with the end result.
Oh, they do look fabulous. I'm not going to have anybody show anything here. But I want to talk to you about sizing. We'll get back to that. I want to talk to all the girls about sizing. Becca, tell us a little bit about what you did and why you did it.
Yeah, I had in college, actually, I had a reduction and a lift. Mine was one of those situations where I had boobs in the third grade. Mm-hmm. And wearing bras my whole life, which, as anyone who wants to burn their bra knows, sucks. And it's funny, my dad actually one day was just like, so those are my fault, because everyone on my dad's side of the family has enormous boobs, and offered to, if I wanted to do anything with them, I could. And I was like, well, let's immediately fix this. So I had a reduction, also had a really amazing doctor, was guided through the whole process. The office was really great. The nurses were really wonderful. And mine was actually a really easy peasy kind of situation where I was just overnight, I lost 7.5 pounds.
Of beautiful, gorgeous breasts. You still have beautiful, gorgeous breasts.
Huge. So, without a reduction, I would need a wheelbarrow.
True. Actually, very true. And Lindsay, tell us about your situation.
Yeah, so I think I'll say mine was pretty unique. I actually didn't choose to have a breast augmentation. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years ago, and I had to, almost 2 years ago. So I had to have a double mastectomy. And I'll say this, it was the silver lining of that whole thing was that I could get a breast implant and reconstruction, because I grew up similar to Sylvia. I was very flat. The women in my family all had big boobs, and it was always something I wanted. And I kind of just resigned myself to having the body that I had, and I was at peace with it. And then when this happened, to me, it was a silver lining. I was like, this was a horrible experience I had to go through, but if the positive is that I can get great boobs, the boobs of my dream out of it, I saw that as a positive. So I had a double mastectomy. They removed all the breast tissue. I had 2 different surgeries. I had the double mastectomy first, and then a few months later, I had full reconstruction. So now I'm like ED, size, and it's amazing. I love them, and
They look great.
Thanks. They're still. I'm still getting used to it, and they're filling in. They'll soften and look more natural eventually, but I'm really happy with it.
They also look amazing. And I've actually gotten to see all 3 of your breasts in the flesh. So thank you for that. For people who've listened to this podcast before, I 41. I had done 5 rounds of IVF, all the hormones made my body go blah, blah. And I decided if I was going to have a no baby body, I was going to try to have an O baby body. So, I tried to also, like Lindsay, take a crappy shit situation and look for the benefit of it. And I decided to celebrate myself and my body, and get the girls lifted. And one thing I was surprised is when I was looking for a lift, I didn't realize that if, I guess it makes sense now, just like a reduction, it's a similar surgery. They cut around the areola, they cut down, what's called an anchor lift, but you lose considerable amount of mass. So that's why I put a small implant in, because I didn't want to lose my size. And I do want to talk about sizing because, Sylvia, you mentioned it. When I went into the doctor, who is also fabulous, I found that the whole sizing was really confusing. And I don't know if it was because I already had breasts to start, but they kind of gave me these inserts and they said, well, put them in your bra. How do you look? And I was like, they just look like I'm trying to shove something into my bra. What did you think about the sizing?
Yeah, I actually thought it was so funny because you walk in there thinking that you can tell your doctor, like, I want to be a C and a D. And then they come back to you and they're like, yeah, we don't really measure in that sense because every woman's different. So I had to do a little bit of research. So I went back to a couple of my friends who had augmentations and asked them what their CCs, how many CCs they had done. And based on that, I was able to kind of figure out where I wanted to be.
Right.
A lot of my girlfriends, like they're from LA, and it's like, it's a different culture. So, the CCs range.
So you can say it. Listen, a lot of our girls in LA like to be a little bit more done, right? A little bit more pronounced, where I find that New York is a little bit more on the smaller, more subtle size.
So, just kind of basing off of them and like what I felt comfortable, because I didn't want to walk into work and everybody like know that I had my breast done. Like I wanted it to be like something that, I went from wearing padded bras and, within a month, people didn't know that I was no longer wearing those padded bras. Like it was a natural transition. And then eventually when I felt comfortable, I was able to tell people. But anyways, back to like the sizing, you really kind of have to do like, figure out in terms of like CCs. I ended up doing some Googling and found that like a tablespoon equals like a CC or something. And based on that, like I just kind of like did it at home and like put some water in some Ziploc bags and trying to figure it out.
Wow. Wait, so you didn't even have like where you went in and they gave you like the.
But I'd still like, I didn't want to just go in there and like meet with the doctor and go with my first,
Right.
Kind of sit with the idea. So I went home and like did the Ziploc with water in my bra and, like went with what I felt ended up being like the best size for me.
They look very, very natural. So yeah, did a really, really wonderful job. Becca, how about when it's a reduction, what is that like in terms of trying to find out what the size is? And you were younger then. So is that different?
It's a little different just because you don't discuss it in terms of CCs.
Right. Also, what is the CCs? It's like, we don't even measure stuff like that. Give me like a cupful or give me a bra size. Anyway, my gripe.
Or give me, I would like my boobs to be 2 cups apiece. You know what I mean? Thinking route, if that's the way we're going to go.
A full handful.
For a reduction, you don't discuss terms of CCs. You do discuss weight.
Okay.
Mass measurements and density measurements, and like you discuss like what would be like what's possible like with your structure. I had a doctor who I felt, like he had done a number of people that I knew. I had seen like reduction work from him before on other people. So I really was just like, look, at the rate I'm going, my boobs are they're gonna fall to the floor. I'm gonna have to throw them over my shoulder. Like it's gonna be, I need them to be where they're supposed to be and a normal size.
Right.
Gave him discretion on like how much to take out. He ended up taking out 3.5 and 4 pounds out respectively from each breast. So it was a hefty amount of tissue.
Right.
And then he did the shaping and the lift post tissue removal.
So was it 2 surgeries?
No, it was just
All in the same?
do the cut around the areola, then they do the anchor, and they take tissue out, and then
Right.
once the amount of tissue they want in there, they like mold it where they want it to go.
Right.
Go you back up, and for the lift, as you know, like you get stretched down like over. So like I had freckles like along my collarbone that are like no longer anywhere you could see them.
I was surprised by that. Like I thought that they were actually going to cut around. So when I saw what the anchor look, which looks like it looks like they cut around the nipple. I thought they cut your nipple out, they put it on the table here, they kind of take the stuff out, but they don't. Your nipple stays in place, and they actually cut above your nipple, like somewhere wherever they figured that they're going to do it. They do a round circle above your nipple, and then they pull the skin back.
Yeah, they pull everything
on top of your, they cut around your nipple, they cut some skin up here, and then they pull the skin down and
the tissue like up around your nipple.
Yeah.
If your nipple's here, they cut all the way down around it to keep like the duct and everything.
Yeah.
Basically just shove it up and then mold the tissue around it, stretch it down, and then lop everything off that comes down below.
Right. I know for me, it was a pretty intense surgery. Did you find it to be like intense?
The reduction or the lift?
Yeah.
I am never one to gauge off of because I have a rather high pain tolerance.
Gotcha.
For me, I had no issues. I was up and around within a day or two. It felt like a sunburn to me.
I was like, they gave me like so many painkillers. And I mean, at the end of the week, I was like, I need more. So I thought I had a high pain tolerance, but it was harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the drains were the most irritating part because I had 4 drains, which were a nightmare. I had 2 of them were removed within like a couple of days, and then I had 2 that stayed for like over a week, and I was just like, these gross things have to be removed from my body.
Lindsay, I know that you had the drains as well, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I think that actually, you had probably the most I don't want to say traumatic, but the most amount of surgery to get throughout your breast augmentation than any of the 3 of us did. I feel like and I could be wrong, but I feel like implants are sort of, I don't want to say the easiest. There's no easy surgery, but I think that those are like maybe they require the least amount of incisions. Breast lifts require a little bit more. They're cutting more. And then, I mean, Lindsay, you had a double mastectomy, and then you had to, I remember you were wearing the spacers. Why don't you tell us what that procedure was?
Actually, going into this, I had no idea. So the amount of things that I learned was really crazy. And, so after the double mastectomy, they implant these things called spacers in your breast. And then talking about sizing, this was actually pretty amazing that, I didn't have to decide and wake up the next day what size I wanted to be. So with the spacers, I went into the doctor's office once a week, and they injected me with a little bit of saline every single week. And that expanded my breast tissue. And then I could decide exactly what size I wanted to be. So it was a gradual process over 3 months. It was amazing. So I didn't have to, my body couldn't have handled that to go from being completely flat to being as big as I wanted to be. I'm still not that big, but I couldn't have done that overnight. And so after once I decided, I said, this is the size I'm comfortable with. I waited, a few more weeks, and then had the reconstructive surgery, and they, took out the spacers, put in the actual breast implants. And that was it. It really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was, it was a big surgery, and it was really painful. I think I was just trying my best to stay positive during this crazy time.
Are you kidding?
For a woman.
Yeah.
But,
you are.
trying to stay positive, but I looked down and I said, I went bra shopping and I could buy big bras. And I was like, oh my God, I don't need a padded bra anymore. And it was amazing, so that was fun.
Yeah. And this bitch still doesn't need to wear a bra.
Yeah.
No, well, I want to address that because, but going back to the drains, so I didn't have to have drains. It was said maybe that I would, maybe I didn't. I feel like I really lucked out. What? Yeah, because I feel like that would have added a whole other level of. Tom, my husband, would have had a hard time with that, and I really needed him to help me.
Horrible time with drains.
Yeah, that would have been horrific. That would have been the end of it. But now we can. Luckily, we didn't have. What is that? Because I don't think. I kind of thought that drains were like they stuck a tube in you and the fluid. I didn't realize it. Like they collect it. Correct? Tell me what the drains are like.
Really insane. You're wearing a sports bra that has these loops on them, loops on you, and the drains are. It's a tube that's coming out of your body and attached to these drains that are pumped up, and they fill up with liquid. And then every day you have to remove the liquid from the drains. And my wonderful husband did it every single day, and it was.
Yeah, my mom did mine. The reason, and you have to remember that the reason you have drains is because when there's trauma to an area, there is swelling build up. So
Yes.
fluid that builds up because of the trauma in the area. So the more movement, the more tissue they remove. She had all of her tissue removed. I had a lot of tissue removed. That will tend to set the body's alarm off to say okay, go deal with this. And as a result, fluid builds up and it has to go somewhere. So with the drain,
It comes out. But you actually have to measure the amount of fluid, correct?
Yeah.
Every night, we would do as our nightly ritual. We're like, oh, we're newlyweds. This is not the nightly ritual.
Oh, your husband is an absolute saint, by the way. He, we have to give a very special shout out to Adam right now because that couldn't have been easy for him at all. But I think, on that too, how important do you think it is for people to have a good support system? Not just for the emotional part of it, but also for the physical. I don't know, Sylvia, did you need that afterwards?
I did. I mean, I have very low pain tolerance, so for me, it was I definitely needed to have somebody there to help me, just to get around for the first 3 days, and then afterwards, I mean, I was sleeping sitting up for about 3 weeks, and even
Right.
bra on and off, the one that clasped here was a pain in the butt. So yeah, it definitely was, and also emotionally too. You're going into surgery, and I've never had surgery before like that, and haven't had surgery since. Knock on wood, and it's definitely a new experience where you're just if you need somebody to kind of walk you through everything's going to be okay.
I feel like the anxiety of the surgery for me was a little bit altered because I was supposed to have my surgery on a Sunday. I got up at 7 and they called, and we're living in a different time now of COVID. And they were like, your COVID results haven't come back yet. We can't do it. So I was ready to go. And they were like, we're going to wait a couple hours, keep calling the lab. It didn't come until the next day. So by the time the next day came, I think that at least that anxiety had settled, because then I was just annoyed, and I'm let's do this already. But I had no idea. For me, I couldn't sit up. The first 2 nights, I bought a wedge pillow. That was a game changer and a lifesaver for me, because I think with also the fluid draining, it helps everything drain down. But I couldn't sit up, and I expected my chest to hurt, but you don't think of your, I don't know, for me, thinking of sitting up, I think of abs, but it's not. It's the entire, every muscle in your front is involved in getting up from bed. And I couldn't feed myself for the first day. It hurt that badly. How about you, Becca?
I also, I slept sitting up for almost like
Mhm.
so I remember I was at the lake house in Michigan, and I remember one instance where I tried to get up out of a chair. I was sitting, and I tried to do one of those with my arms, which obviously engaged all sorts of shit that should not have been engaged. And that for me was the moment I remember of being oh fuck, what did I do?
Right.
After that, I really didn't have, I mean, for me, PRP was a way worse experience than a breast reduction.
Right.
I mean,
Oh, And silent plug, if you haven't heard that episode, you should go back because we got Becca on talking about that. And it is not only informative, but you're really fucking funny. Very entertaining.
Yeah,
How about you, Lynn? Oh, sorry.
was way worse than the boobs. I would.
Oh, the PRP. Yeah. I guess like 1,000 needles in your head is not as bad as having something cut, but you're also under.
Under when they shove the 80 million needles in your head. So
But you're not under. Yeah. Yeah. Lindsay, how about you? What was like, was there any like more pain than expected, less pain than expected?
For me, it was less pain than I expected. I did all this without painkillers and
Yeah.
without morphine. I had other, pain block shots instead of doing, any drugs. And I was surprised that it was okay. It really wasn't shooting pain. It was more just like really tired. I also didn't realize how much sitting up would be really difficult and how much your whole body is being used when you're doing these motions. I tried to get out of bed to pee and my husband would like push my back up so I could pee.
Yes, it was the pushing up.
But it was, I physically, emotionally, it was wonderful to have my parents there, my husband there, my amazing friends. There's no way I could have done all that, especially, it was the hardest time in my life. There's no way I could have done that without friends. So I think having a support system for someone like me, it's hard to ask for help. It is hard to say, I need you to come to take me to the doctor. I need someone to feed me, to get food for me. There's a lot of things that go into it. And I think what I learned is that, if you're a little vulnerable, people show up for you. And it's really, to me, that was really positive.
we'll buy your silicone straws, girl. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
thank you.
I think it was very humbling. I too am just a doer, and I was very lucky to have Tom here. And I mean, he had to get in the shower and shampoo my hair because I couldn't lift my arms. I also, full disclosure, just did a little bit of suction here, which I think was more like, I think that because when they do liposuction, they're physically separating your skin from the tissue there. So he said that might have been why it hurt so bad, but it hurt. And I was not expecting that. But after a week in my situation, it was pretty much, I was in the clear. But for a full week, I read these, these boards and all of these support sites, and women are like, with toddlers, are like, "Can I do this and take care of my kid?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think you can." Because I was surprised too. Like when you have any sort of breast augmentation, I did, I shall say, silicone unders for the implant. They told me not to lift anything heavier than a milk carton for almost 6 weeks.
They told me that too.
Yeah. How about with the, if you don't mind sharing, do you mind sharing whether you did silicone or saline?
I did silicone under the muscle tissue.
And Sylvia? Silicone under the muscle, which seems, to be one of the most, look, it's a very personal choice. I was told that you run a little bit less risk, believe it or not, of things like rippling, which saline can do. I think the benefit of having saline is if one should rupture, immediately. I know somebody that happened to, and they woke up and it was like, oh, flat in one. And there is a little bit more care that goes into having silicone implants. Were you made aware of that, Sylvia?
In terms of the care, I mean, my doctor gave me like instructions, like don't sleep on my stomach, things like that, like,
Forever.
sleep on my stomach now.
Well, but like things like you have to go have MRIs. They recommend every 3 to 5 years. 5 years.
I also just found out that the certain implant that I got, which is like a teardrop shape, is made of a certain material, and they found like there's a small percentage of women who actually get breast cancer from it.
Right.
So I bring it up to my doctor, and she basically just was like, listen, unless you're feeling any symptoms, there's no reason to go and get them taken out, but obviously like just be mindful of it and just keep an eye on it. So
Are they making mammograms?
yeah.
But and that's something, I mean, Lindsay, I'm sure you were made, and you are also in a very different set of circumstances. But I was surprised because it's something, if you're at home thinking about this, thinking about getting any type of silicone implant, they need to be monitored, right? And they recommend getting not just a mammogram, but getting an MRI every 3 years to make sure that there's no rupture or leak. My doctor says you can probably do 5. But that is something just to think about when you're doing this, because that's not something your insurance will cover. And it's like an extra cost. It's like another $1,500, which I was surprised about. Is there anything that you wish you would have known prior to this whole process, Lindsay?
I wish I knew, they're not, my boobs are still a little hard. They're like still, going to get filled out. And I remember talking to Sylvia before, and, you said that it took a year or two to, to settle, to get soft, so I'm still getting used to that. And, it's not going to be perfect overnight, but I've been really happy. And for the most part, I think I've been really pleased.
Yeah. How about you, Sylvia? Anything?
Like just kind of second what Lindsay just said. That was the one thing where I got the teardrop thinking like it was going to feel a little and look a little bit more natural. But as soon as you get them done, they're like little torpedoes, like coconuts, like right on top of your chest. And, it took about a year, 2 years for them to get to that point where, it felt like they were not part of me, but like I didn't feel like it was as noticeable.
How about you, Becca? With the lift, and clearly you did a reduction, so there was no implant put in. Was there anything in that process that you feel like, or the recovery that you wish you would have known beforehand?
I can't say that there is, which I know sounds odd, but like I really feel like I had like the optimal experience. Like if you're gonna
Mhm.
have a production, like I would do it the way I did it.
Yeah,
Um, for me, it was a very easy process. The hardest part for me was deciding whether or not to do it.
yeah.
I decided that yes, this is what I was going to do. I was just like, all right, here we go.
Did any of you guys have like zings in your boobs as things started to like heal?
Actually,
And, like that was something that I was not expecting, and I got them a lot around my nipple specifically. And I call my doctor freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, something is like on fire. It feels like I'm getting these zing zaps. And he's like, no, those are the nerves reconnecting.
so I was told that like you could potentially lose feeling in your nipple. You could have potentially loss of sensation along your scars. Like they went through the whole process. I was like, fine, I don't care.
Right.
I knew it. There was like, there's no way to prepare you for what that feels like, other than maybe it kind of feels like when your foot falls asleep and then it wakes back up. Only it's less than ideal. For me, it was like, and I also had one nipple that was like permanently hard for like 10 weeks that just would not go down, and I couldn't feel it. And like eventually, like I now have full sensation in the entire both nipples, but like I didn't for a while, and it felt so weird and like oddly painful at times when the
Yeah. Lindsay, going back to like the hardness thing, I remember when I got, I mean, I'm only about, let's see, 3 months out. And when they were first done, I looked down and was like, this is not what I signed up for, because you actually put it really well, Sylvia. They looked like two coconuts stuck on here, two torpedoes. They were high. But then I feel like, I don't know, 2 weeks into it, I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. It looks like when I wear a push-up bra, except with nothing on. And then at about, I don't know, 3 months, they've now settled. Um, and, they look like real breasts, really fabulous real breasts, but they don't have that like, but somebody said before, Lindsay, you said that you don't have to wear a bra. I don't know if this is different. My doctor was very clear with me, and he was like, you had a lift, you have to wear a bra. If you don't wear a bra, they're going to go right back down to where they started.
it's your skin, which will
Yeah,
again if you
right.
under constant weight. So you and I are stuck wearing a bra forever.
Forever. Granted, I can wear like a lace bra now, and it's not, I don't need like, a full supportive, like girdle type of bra to hold the girls up. Um, but I think that's something I want to point out too, that I thought I was like, I'm never going to have to wear a bra again. And it was like, oh, no, I mean, I can go without a bra occasionally, but what do you think is like the best thing about getting them done? We've talked about like some of like the hardness and like getting, that we had to go through, but Sylvie, what's been like the best part of it for you?
My favorite part is just not having to wear a bra, like with backless dresses. Like I really did the surgery for myself, and being able to like I remember like going home and trying on all the dresses that I would normally have to find like a nude bra to wear with, or like some weird thing, and being able to put those on, or like throw on a bikini top and like fill it out, like just anything where like my girlfriends, like they used, like I remember always thinking like I wish like I could fill out a dress the way they do. So that's not having to worry about like those kind of like small things in terms of like putting an outfit together was like the best, for me, the best benefit.
How about you, Becca?
Because I don't need a wheelbarrow. Like I don't.
Mobility.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for me, like if I wanted to do anything, I had to like duct tape them to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like prior to surgery. And it's just not a manageable size. You know, like my back doesn't hurt anymore. Like I can do normal activities, and like it's not like my boobs are no longer like a sidekick.
Right.
Like a part of my body. They're like, they don't take up their own space mentally, like just everything freed up. Like I no longer have to think about them. I mean, I think about them because I don't wear a bra every day, but like it's not, they're not their own thing anymore, which I think is probably the best thing I ever did for myself.
How about you, Lindsay?
So I think Sylvia put it so well. Like I remember after my surgery, and I was going through my closet, retrying on so many clothes, and things fit me so differently. I gave some of my old tops to my mom. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get Lindsay's hand-me-downs, and I was like, oh my god, I can fill it out. I can buy new clothes. I can wear, things fit me differently, and it felt great.
Yeah.
Wanted and never had. All my friends have big boobs, and I was always the one that was like, flat and athletic, but that was it. It was good fun.
Girl, you had a banging body before, and now you got a really banging body after. I mean, you're extremely fit. On that, like going through, I know that when it was like getting a whole new wardrobe, because even the clothes that I already owned, things that I always used to be like, can you see my bra through this? That now it's like, I'm not tied to that. And there are certain things that were backless that I was like, I can't really wear this, which I can now, or wearing like a plunge bikini. It's a lot of fun. Also, I'm just going to say it, like my sex life has never been better. Like, I just think that is something that, is maybe more, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's not about the attention or really so much this. I think it's how I feel about myself. And I'm more confident to like throw on some like really racy lingerie and like do something, or just, be in the house with, the girls. What?
Are you ever in the house without them?
No, but I guess, I mean, it's like I walk around a lot more with them out.
Wear more?
No, I guess that would be weird. Imagine if you could just kind of take them off and put them away. That would kind of be convenient.
Very Mrs. Potato.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think that there's so many people out there. I was surprised to know this is actually breast augmentation is it is the most popular cosmetic surgery. And, whether it's something that you opt to do or something that you're sort of, forced to do, I think it's wonderful that technology exists, and, 4 different women now showing us that, I don't know, you can have what you want and you can celebrate. And if they're too big or too small, or if, everything in between, you can get it fixed.
Thanks, Amber. This was wonderful.
I want to thank you guys. And hey, everybody out there, if you've got questions about boobs, feel free to shoot them over to me. You can write me at hello@artbeautypodcast.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Art Beauty Podcast. If you have questions for these beautiful ladies, pass them along to me and I'll pass them back to them. We'll get them answered. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday.